Okay, guys, welcome to this week's Fife Property Market Update. This is looking at all the properties come onto the market in the last week with all the estate agents throughout Fife and against all the properties actually sold in the same period. Again, as I said before, it gives us a good indication about how strong or weak the market is in terms of the number of stock coming on and the number of stock being sold. I'm also going to talk about the properties that we've got coming to market this week, actually, and just in the period. And what's been sold and what's over the line now and what we got for it, because it's important for you to understand. There's 2-3 articles on here as well, and I want to focus on them as well again. And then we'll look at the numbers on the actual websites for sale throughout Fife, and we'll come to a judgment about where we are in terms of what we would expect in the 2022 market in the next year. Okay, so let's talk about what's come to market last week and what is actually gone under offer. Dramatic drop, as you'll see. I kind of think this expected right across the Fife market. We're typically, every single estate agent, we're usually doing double the numbers there. So it's down to 56 this week. But you can see in each region, even though 3 is instructed, 5's been sold in Cooper, 1 in East Neuk, 3 being sold in East Neuk. So you could see straight throughout this process. I mean, no properties were listed last week in the Leavenmouth area, and yet 5 properties sold. So it tells you there's still huge buyer demand. Look at Dunfermline, 18 actually listed, 25 sold. Glenrothes 9 listed, 10 sold. Kirkcaldy 21 versus 19. Overall 56 listed right across Fife with all the estate agents, and 61 sold. Demand is still outstripping supply. If you have a property that you're considering, now is probably the time, and I'll show you why. We're going to look at some of the statistics. So this is website activity for us. So far in the year on year, right up to this date, from the 19th of December 2020 to yesterday, which is the 18th of December, we were hitting 452,000 visits to our website. So that means, and I've put it in comparison. So there it is in terms of the graph. Now, there's where it was last year, and you can see that huge spike at everybody's activity, and they're all clamoring to get property during the summer periods. And as it comes down to the Christmas period, but notice, see here, this thick blue line is what it is this year at this point in time. Now, there's the dotted line. That's where it was last year. So again, you can see demand on our website is still outstripping what it was the year before, year on year. Plus the fact, if you look at it there, this is where we are now. This is where it was last year at this point in time. So look at that difference in terms of where the demand is. There's still a huge amount of demand in the marketplace for properties. So when things are coming on right now at this point in time, it's a golden opportunity to take advantage of that. And I'll tell you why. And this is the reason. The Boxing Day bounce. A 400% increase in bounce rate in terms of the activity coming on. So there it is last year. Now we'll look at last year because we can't look at this year, obviously, because it's not past yet. But typically that's what happens in the Boxing Day bounce. It jumps down to here and then it goes boom. It starts to go right up. So this is up to the end of the 31st of January. So you can see there, we're sitting at around about 250 people coming on the website. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the month, every single day, you've got about 1,250 coming on every single day at the website. So that shows you the huge bounce that you've got. Now, this is where you take advantage of the market as a seller. And here's the reason why. This is less choice for a buyer. Therefore, it is a stronger position for you as a seller, because you have got still all these buyers looking at your property, but there's less properties on the market at this point in time. Just to show you back there, that's the number of properties coming onto market, and that's the number being sold. So there's half the amount of properties coming onto market now than there was before, and the demand's all still there. You can see that here. In this graph, they're all still here at this point in time. Then this is a golden opportunity to take advantage of that and put yourself in a stronger position, because there's less choice for a buyer to choose from. Guess what happens when you get up to here by the end of the month? If you wait till January and wait till February, then up here, the buyer has now got more choice, because everybody starts to come on at this point in time, and therefore you're in a weaker position to negotiate, because they've got more choice to choose from as a result of that. The less choice, is where you can negotiate things like longer entry dates, You could have open-ended entry dates. You have people out there right now at this point in time are accepting to wait all the time until you find your dream home next before they actually conclude the missives, or before they actually go over the line and actually conclude with you. That's a real good, strong position to be in. But you could actually put yourself in an even stronger position down here, is because what happens is you make sure you conclude missives as part of the deal. You also make sure you take a non-refundable deposit of, say, £5,000 or £10,000 as part of the deal as well. And people will often down here, because you've got less choice, actually agree to your conditions. Whereas up here, when there's more properties coming onto the market towards the end of January and the beginning of February and March, then therefore they've got more choice. They're less likely to agree to your terms of longer entry dates, maybe concluded missives, and maybe deposits, non-refundable deposits as well. So it's really important that you actually take advantage of that if you're actually considering selling. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, please feel free to message us direct or call at any of the offices and ask about this process. This is the Boxing Day bounce. This is the do not disturb campaigns, which is you put your house on just before Christmas or in the Christmas period, but you tell everybody, or we tell everybody, you're not getting in the door to view until after Christmas and New Year, and therefore it almost builds up a momentum of people looking to actually look at your property before the period ends in January. Therefore, it's kind of like on a sale day when you open the doors and everybody runs at once. Therefore, it puts you in a real strong negotiating position for that reason. Let me talk about properties being sold this week. So, sold this week, and the reason I tell you that is all about if you have a similar property to this, we have people that miss out all the time on these. So this is Burtree Bray in Lower Largo, a 4-bedroom detached house, and they actually sold in 2 weeks. There's good demand for these types of properties in the Lower Largo area. Wellesley Road in Buckhaven, 3-bedroom semi-detached villa. No surprise that went in 3 days. And I tell you what, it's sold for a fantastic price point. I mean, the prices are really good. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Where Fife property prices have been over the last year, and where I think they'll probably go next year as well. And the North Street in Leslie, that was sold, and that was in 6 weeks. That was sold. Took a wee bit longer. It's a higher value property. To get the right buyer, and get the right buyer, it's looking for this type of uniqueness in this property. Wonderful views to the back garden. I mean, you basically sat there and you overlooked everywhere towards the east and west Lomond Hills. So that was sold in the 6-week period. Pre-portal launch, well, no surprise, New Grange Crescent in Pittenweem, that sold on pre-portal launch. It actually never even made it to a website. It was sold before it got on the websites. A 4-bedroom semi-detached villa. People actually missed out on this. So if you've got a property like this in the Pittenweem area, then we would love to hear from you, or the East Neuk area. And finally, the plot of land at Kilrenny, that is away. That was actually sold or under offer in the strong negotiating position on a pre-portal launch. So it was more or less sold before then, and it has planning permission already, outline planning permission for a property to go in there, and the driveway coming in off the front there. So again, if you've got land in the East Neuk area, we would love to hear from you, because they got a good price point for that one as well. Coming soon. Let's talk about what we've got coming soon, and you better be quick. Good evening, Andrea. How are you? Okay, so George Terrace in St Morans. This is a pre-portal. It is now live, the pre-portal, on our East Neuk Facebook page only. It is not on any websites just now. It is a 4-bed over 3 levels townhouse. I tell you what, it's offers over 280,000, and it has an amazing net loft out the back. Just right. I mean, it already has a games room upstairs and a laundry downstairs and 2 storage areas, but it's a golden opportunity to turn the upstairs into a home office, possibly, just by strapping and boarding and lining the place. So another area to develop. 3 Bow Butts in Crail, that's pre-portal live. I just did that on Friday. A detached villa finished at extremely high standard, 4-bedroom. And I said 2 reception, but to be honest, the upper landing is a reception in itself. It offers over 370,000. It is on a massive plot. I would be tempted to take away the single garage and build a double maybe even a triple garage, depends what you can get in there. That's how big the plot is, and actually with a granny flat upstairs, or a home office upstairs as well. It does lend itself to that opportunity to do that, subject to necessary permissions being granted. But, you know, if you know Crail, you know, welcome to God's country. It is absolutely beautiful. And this is easy walking distance to the Fife Coastal Path, the harbour, and the beaches itself. Room Bay is absolutely a wonderful beach, and play park area, and it just, and the golf course is just along the road, short distance in the car, to the historic Crail Golf Course. Again, beautiful location. If you've not seen the drone footage for these areas, type in Fife Properties Crail on YouTube, and you'll possibly see location footage for the Crail area if you're not familiar with it. Good evening, Angela. How are you? Okay, Rose Street in Methil, that's coming soon as well. That's a 2-bedroom end terrace cottage, and it's perfect for a downsizer or first-time buyer. Completed this week. So what have we actually completed? What have we handed the keys out and it's over the door? And people have actually moved in. We can now tell you opportunities where we have actually managed to conclude these missives. They're over the line. They've got the keys. Cooper Road in Aftermarket. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-reception terrace villa with a lot of original features. It was sold over the home report value. If you've got people, if you've got a property like that in the Cooper Road, Achtermachte area, then please feel free to contact us. Rose Street in St Monans, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-reception period property. It was over 3 levels, garden to the side, just along the road from the tidal pool. So ideal opportunity to pop out your door in the front in the morning, have a wee swim, come back in, do a bit of work, pop out for your lunch or your walk, and then pop back into your work again. So brilliant location for home office working. And Rowland Street in St Monans over the line as well. 2-bedroom terraced house. 2 or 3 people missed out on this, and this was sold way over the home report value. It was actually sold for a considerable amount more, and it was a first-time buyer that got it, and they were over the moon with their first purchase. East Green in Anstruther. This was actually overlooking the harbour area and over into the Firth of Forth. 3-bedroom, 2-reception detached villa, finished an extremely high standard. There was several notes of interest on this, on people that missed out, and buyers moving from the Glasgow area wanting to move and actually relocate to East Neuk itself. So if you have properties like this, East Green in Anstruther was round about the 450,000 mark for its price, but I would probably say it ended up about $500,000 in terms of the price point. And that's another one over the line. So if you have properties like that as well, feel free to contact us. Now, let's talk about a couple of articles that we've produced and then property prices in Fife over the last year. We'll talk about that just in a minute. So 3 articles on this post. I decided to put 3. I was doing a lot of vlogs during the week. And one of them was actually, we did a show yesterday on home for Christmas. Enjoy the spirit of the season where you live in Fife. It's actually not much to do with property, but it's everything how to prepare for Christmas and all the things you might want to do at Christmas, but I've actually all forgotten about. So we talked about all these things, all the nostalgic things that you used to do at Christmas, and it might give you some ideas on what to do, discovering your neighbourhood as well, making changes in your home. We did cover a wee bit at the end about making changes in your home. So the podcast is on there, the hour-long show is on there as well, and the article is on there as well. So you could read that at your own leisure. The other one is we want to talk about is people's addictions to their spare bedrooms. So this is a classic. Did you realise that there's 47,000 homes in Fife with 1 spare bedroom? Yep. And there's and if you take into account that and then the 2 or more spare bedrooms, you've got about 68,000 homes in Fife out of the 160,000 with 2 or more spare rooms. Now, most people would want to use that for maybe a home office, but you do have a lot of spare rooms. And there was, I think it was one of the housing ministers, the UK housing minister, Chris Pincher, actually suggested that older homeowners, a bit controversial, are rattling around in their homes that are far too big for them. So he implied they're pretty selfish and should sell up and move to the retirement home when he spoke to a committee in the House of Lords, stating many British homes are under-occupied and could be better used by younger families with children. But we actually go on to talk about this in the show, the fact that, and what the actual finalisation of this is, The government's failed to provide for places for the older generation to downsize to. They've not actually done a strategic housing policy, and the fact that it's all very well saying you should sell up your house, but where are you going to go to? If there's no bungalows and there's no smaller properties to actually buy anymore, it makes it really difficult for anybody to sell their house in the first place. So that's kind of where the show went in itself. Chris Pincher, maybe you should keep your mouth shut. That's just my opinion. And the final one I would talk about is Fife house prices. So in the last year, Fife house prices have actually moved up 14.8% in the last year. So the UK house prices have actually only gone up on the Scottish average. The Scottish average itself has actually gone up 11.3%. So that just shows you in terms of where Fife is to the Scottish average. We're moving up a lot higher in our price point. I think predominantly because our price point is still on the average price point right throughout the whole of Scotland. So it's still an affordable place for people to live. Hence the reason why we are starting to realign with the rest of Scotland in terms of the price points, because we've taken a lot of time for prices to go up. It's since the actual credit crunch. So this is where it sits just now. And this is why I think next year it'll probably go up even higher than what is predicted to be the average. And I would probably predict next year property prices in Fife might go up 5 or 6%, regardless of inflation and regardless of interest rates possibly going up. I still think they're going to go up as a result, because we're still more affordable compared to the rest of the UK. But you can see all that, and in that show I talk about the graphs and show the statistics behind it, the average property prices in Scotland, and then I talk about the prices over the last 5 years in comparison, then also talk about the sales numbers, transactions over the last 5 years. That's in there as well itself. You can see the graphs there, and why we are still heading for a boom next year, and I don't think that's going to change, to be honest. Let's talk about, finally, I always put on every single time, is the instant valuation tool. So the instant valuation tool is on there for a reason. It gives you a golden opportunity to possibly take advantage of. If you're not sure about the valuation of your property, you can click on that instant valuation tool, and it does actually give you a kind of accurate valuation about where your property price is. Now, a lot of people are actually going onto this and going, oh yeah, boy, I never realized my house was worth that much. And that then puts you into a different bracket, because if it's worth that much, then does it allow you to have an opportunity to actually release capital and possibly invest it in buy-to-let? Because remember, your house maybe goes up in value, but everybody else's house does as well. But if you can release money, and this is only my opinion, because this is what I do, if you can release money from your existing property and put it in investment property, then that goes up at the same time. But that's making money for you, whereas your house isn't, because if you stay in your house, you're only using your house. You're not actually using it as an investment. And when you finally sell your house, you just change it for another house, because you still have to live in a house. Whereas if you have a house outside of that, which is increasing values, that is true value and true wealth creation as a result of that. So that's why I look at it like that in terms of the, plus the fact as well, insurance-wise, and possibly the rebuild value might have gone up. So you need to check that, possibly. You also might have a mortgage, which is coming into the end of the term. Maybe you've got a fixed rate term, and it's going to go on to variable rate mortgage again. Now, when you took out your mortgage to begin with, it was maybe a 90% loan to value. So if you had a £100,000 house, you probably would have lent £90,000. But could you imagine if your house, and that's a 90% loan to value, and because there's a higher value, a higher loan to value, the bank charges you more interest, a higher interest rate, because it's more risk for them if anything happens. Credit crunch comes along and drops 20%. They've lost 10% in that deal because you've got 90%, whereas from 100% to there is 80%. So they've lost money. So that's why they charge you a higher interest rate. But if your property has actually, say, gone up, and for the sake of it, we'll just say your property in the last year has gone up. In the last, you maybe had your property for maybe 10 years. In the last 10 years, property prices have gone up by about, I think it's about 50%. So if property prices have gone up in the last 10 years by 50%, your property is now 150,000. However, your mortgage is possibly a lot lower than that. And your mortgage could now be, in the last 10 years, because you've been paying capital repayment, about 75,000. That is now a loan to value of 50%. And if you're on a loan to value of 50%, the bank looks at that and goes, you're less of a risk. Therefore, we're going to give you a better interest rate. So you can get a lot better, a lot lower interest rate as a result of that. And they will often give you more favourable terms as well. And a lot of people just now, because interest rates are predicted to rise a wee bit, and because inflation is predicted to rise as well, they're actually hedging themselves by actually fixing the rates just now on their mortgage, maybe for 2, 3 or 5 years. Again, speak to a mortgage advisor, a mortgage professional on that, on the best deal for you. We do have people like that. So if you want to inquire with us or message us, we can certainly put you in touch with our preferred partners that we work with and we've been working with for years in terms of your mortgages, and possibly get you a lower interest rate. There is round about 11,000 people in Fife at this point in time. We did a previous show on that 2 or 3 weeks back. 11,000 people that are sitting on variable rate mortgages. The average variable rate mortgage is 4.5%. The average fixed rate mortgage is 2.5 or 2%, which actually saves you about 2.5% if you fix your mortgage. Now, 2.5% of the average mortgage price ended up working out around about a £2,000 saving a year in your pocket. Now, could you imagine having £2,000 extra to spend every single year? Not because you've worked for it, just because you've actually looked at it and saved it. And you've saved it on your mortgage because you've actually got a better deal than you've got just now. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're not paying any extra for doing that. You're actually just making sure that you've got the best mortgage deal out there that you're on just now, and you could actually save yourself some money. We predicted and we had calculated it's about £2,000 if you're on the average mortgage and you're on a variable rate mortgage just now. So please feel free to contact us on that as well. And that's it, guys. If you've got any further questions or anything you would like to ask us, and you want to ask us privately, you don't want it broadcast or asked on air, please feel free to message us direct. We will be in touch with you. You can message us your email and your contact number. More than happy to speak to you and help you through that process. We have a tagline with our company, and it's always been this case. It's not about selling your house. It's about helping you manage life as it happens. Okay, and I'll see you next week. And I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties.